Mark Hamill just might have the worst case of TDS we've ever seen. The unhinged Star Wars actor who plays Luke Skywalker himself says he does not care if his political opinions kill his career. That's not good news for Disney, of course, because the House of Mouse, we believe, is putting Mark right back in the next Star Wars theatrical release.
In the grander scheme of things, who cares if I lose a part in the movie because I hate the orange atrocity?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another wonderful day. And of course, well, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Hope everybody out there is getting ready for all kinds of festivities, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, or something else. Folks, be with the people you love and love you back. Find meaning and do good in this world. Folks, we just ask that you click the like button, and we'll get straight to this. It's out of iHeartRadio, but being carried by Eric Abbenante over on X. You might have a hard time finding this on anywhere but X, and there's a reason for that. If you're astute, you might know why. It's difficult to find these sorts of things, but here is Mark Hamill in his latest unhinged rant that could be causing Disney to recant any kind of connection with him. Here we go.
I never, to your question, I never became active until wanting to make sure that, first of all, I was devastated. I want to get rid of the Electoral College because Hillary beat him by 3 million votes, just a shy under 3 million. And Gore beat W by 500,000. And it was making me crazy because I started reading about the Electoral College. And, oh my God, this is a remnants of slave days when they were trying to, proportion the amount of votes with, how many slaves you owned. And
Now, folks, we're not here to be a history channel, although we would be a better history channel than the History Channel if we were. We're not here to be a political channel, and you all know that. We delve into entertainment, and when it intersects with, I guess, history now, too, or politics, well, we'll go there in order to bring out the truth. The Electoral College is, some people think it should stay, and some people think it should go. But the Electoral College is there to protect the United States from becoming a place where politicians go to New York and Los Angeles, and that's it, because those are the major population centers, which would, by the way, skew the way that politicians would govern because they would be trying to placate the biggest population centers, perhaps Chicago as well. And so the Electoral College exists so that politicians have to go to all or most of the states. And so there's a nice variance within the battleground states as well in terms of holding these politicians to the line, having them care about the entire United States, not just a few major population centers. Now, the idea that if you remove the Electoral College, that it would change who becomes president, that's not necessarily necessary. It's not predetermined, and I'll explain why. If you were to remove the Electoral College, and we'll get out of this, folks, because we need to get back to Mark Hamill, but if you remove the Electoral College, what that would do is it would cause candidates to campaign differently. So if there had not been an Electoral College back when George W. Bush was running against Al Gore, Bush would have run a different campaign. So would Al Gore, because they would be chasing the popular vote, and therefore they would be spending all of their time in the population centers. It would change how they do things, but we don't know what the outcome would be. So to predetermine that you believe that if you change the rules, people would no longer win based on the old rules, well, that's silly. It's like saying, hey, if you get enough runs in football, you'll do well. Well, no, runs are what you score in baseball. In football, it's touchdowns. So those parameters don't translate. So the idea that you would, if a politician was stopping trying to get electoral votes, which is how you win, and suddenly started chasing the popular vote, which is how you'd win in that scenario, well, it's just crazy, the idea that it translates one-to-one. It definitely would not. Anyway, let's continue on and see what Mark has to say, because really what we want to get at is Mark is willing to sacrifice his career to chase after his impotent attempts to move politics, and he's actually escaped the bounds of what I think is appropriate and healthy, and we'll show you that right now.
Oh, it's awful. But anyway, so that and Citizens United, I'd like to get rid of. But in any case, I started, as you said, you get most scorching hate tweets from the MAGA crowd. And when I was still on Twitter, I had to stop reading.
This is a man, by the way, who told what he terms the MAGA crowd to go force themselves. So he's an antagonist. Now, I'm sure he's facing people who are antagonistic and abrasive towards him, but he is not, he's not demure. Mark Hamill, he slings the tomatoes and he receives the tomatoes right back.
The responses, I wouldn't block anyone because then they could display Mark Hamill blocked you as a badge of honor. But I muted like a mofo. I would mute, I looked up one day and I said, oh my God, I've been muting people for 40 minutes. So once I realized how it was eating into my own time, I said, the only thing to do is don't read the response.
Yes.
You just.
All right. So we've got two issues here with Mark. One is Mark's getting older and he's spending all his time reading comments online. I just don't think that's healthy. And then number two, his response to not receiving positive feedback to what he's doing is not to reconsider what he's doing, but rather to continue doing it, amplify it, and then refuse to receive any feedback whatsoever. Well, but neither of those, those are both the opposite ends of the spectrum. Mark, I'd like to introduce you to a term called moderation. You should try it sometime.
Oh,
Yeah, you can. And someone said to me, my daughter would say, Daddy, you shouldn't tweet politically so much because, people get so angry.
Mark's daughter is right.
And so I wrote a tweet that I said, the people complaining about my Trump tweets have to understand. I love my country and I feel it's my patriotic duty to oppose this sociopathic, I forget the other word, whatever it was, with every fiber of my being.
Okay. Now, here's where I want to show you why this is damaging to Disney and entertainment and why Mark is off his rocker. Mark has become, essentially, your raucous uncle who is a fan of a football team, but he's taken it so far that nobody wants to be around him. Mark has escaped the bounds of what is healthy for political discourse. Let me show you why. Do you remember this? It's from Andrew at Don't Walk Run. When Mark Hamill actually visited the White House, inserted himself into the political theater, Mark Hamill visited the White House, met with President Joe Biden, and took the podium in the White House press briefing room. We'll play a little clip of this. I just want you to see, and then I'm going to show you why Mark Hamill is not healthy, in my opinion.
Well, I called him Mr. President. He said, you can call me Joe. And I said, can I call you Joe B1 Kenobi? He liked that. But listen.
He would go on to do this for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Folks, he met with the president, and now what we're finding out, and this is not political, right? This is beyond politics, because politics at its core is a debate about policy. I mean, those two words are the same. Policy, the battle for it, is political. That's how that works, okay? So when you're fighting over policy, most of the people in Washington are fighting over money and power, although it's hazy where those lines are drawn because they're rather similar, but they're fighting over that. So policy is the battle for power and money, prestige perhaps, and for a few, principle. Now, when we talk about the cognitive decline of Biden, that's separate from the politics of it, because it doesn't matter who is in the presidency fighting for the policy. It matters that Biden, apparently now we're finding out, was in such cognitive decline as to be essentially unable to act as president. And all of this, of course, is coming out now. Well, let's go back to Mark Hamill for just a minute, and then we'll read this article. Mark Hamill met with President Biden. Mark Hamill had a conversation with the man. Mark Hamill came out and gave this declaration behind the podium at the press briefing room, talking about his experience with Biden, because he wanted Biden to win. Well, it's not healthy, ladies and gentlemen, for you to come out after having met with a senile man in Biden, and we're finding out that's what was going on. It's not healthy to meet with a senile person and then come out and say all these glowing, wonderful things because you're so determined that your team win. And by the way, one of the reasons, of course, that they did not quickly get rid of Biden and sunset him as he was experiencing perhaps sunsetters and other things is because they were not confident that his replacement could win, and perhaps that was justified having now looked at the election. But Mark Hamill was not acting in a healthy manner if he is so dead set on stopping the orange man bad, who he calls the orange abomination. Mark Hamill is not acting in a healthy way if he's so dead set on stopping Trump that he's willing to pretend that a senile person he just met is healthy and cognitively well, because that is pushing deception out into the public sphere. It's propaganda. It's deceptive propaganda. And you should not be a part of that. No one should be a part of that. And you should not be a part of it, especially if it's damaging your career and could damage the company that wants to get you back out there to be a symbol of hope in Luke Skywalker. Out of the New York Post by Deanna Glebova. White House aides hid Biden's apparent mental decline from day one of his presidency. Explosive report reveals. White House aides covered up President Biden's apparent mental decline from day one of his presidency, shielding the aging commander-in-chief from the public and even rearranging his schedule after scatterbrained performances. The lack of access to the nation's oldest ever president has been well known in Washington, with Biden hosting the fewest large press conferences in modern history and frequently descending into gaffes at the podium when he appeared. Now, what this goes on to say, folks, is just mind-boggling how bad it was. According to the Journal, a national security official told an aide at the time, this is back 3 years ago, he has good days and bad days, and today was a bad day, so we're going to address this tomorrow. Now, of course, he continued to decline. And we're not here to be political. We're not here to be, we're not here to be completely stuck on Joe Biden and what we've experienced over the last 4 years. What we're here to do is say that this man in the bottom right, when he meets with someone who's in serious cognitive decline, and then he pretends otherwise, as to put forth a continued hoax upon the American people, a legitimate, terrible hoax upon the American people, in a conspiratorial way with the rest of the mainstream media, press, and the oligarchy, well, that's a problem. It's kind of sinister. And so Mark needs to realize that what he's done is sort of sinister. And he needs to step back and say, you know what? Having a senile person as the most powerful person in the world was a bad idea. And me pretending after I met the man that such was not the case was a bad idea. And maybe my level of anger towards one particular political person is not well-founded given what I'm going, the lengths to which I'm going to stop him. The ends here do not justify the means. And by the way, Mark Hamill does not act as if he really believes any of this. And that's why this gets back into that issue of he's like your raucous uncle, who when he comes over for Thanksgiving or Christmas to watch the football game, everybody groans. Everybody groans when Mark Hamill gets into politics because his actions don't match up with his words. When Mark Hamill tells you that Orange Man Bad represents an existential threat to the country and to the world, Mark Hamill continues to live in his mansion in the United States. He doesn't flee. He doesn't do anything that would indicate that he really, truly believes this, other than he gets out and spouts off crazy words, participates in what we believe was a conspiratorial deception of the nation, and all of that is bad. Let's hear what Mark has to say as he finishes out. And remember, folks, the reason, again, that this matters for this channel is because we believe Mark is going to be in the next Mandalorian movie. And it's Star Wars' last good attempt to get back in the good graces of audiences. Here's Mark Hamill, who launched Luke Skywalker. Here's Mark Hamill, who kicked off the entire thing. And now, because of political unhinged lunacy, he's going to lay Luke Skywalker and the legacy of Star Wars bare. It's a terrible thing to do. It's a horrible thing to do. Because the more he talks like this, the less people are going to be inclined to give him time at the cinema screen. It's not just his career that he's killing. It's Star Wars. What a horrible thing. Here's the finale of it.
Well, I forget the other word, whatever it was, with every fiber of my being. And that's the way I've been. I thought, I mean, I do feel it's an obligation And who cares about your career? People say, oh, well, it's hurting your career because you have to appeal to the whole country, not just half the country or 45% or whatever the MAGA crowd is. But
Mark cannot admit that he's in the minority. He cannot admit it. We're not here to be political. We're not here to tell you that you should believe one way or the other. But after the election, it's clear Mark has the minority viewpoint. And he cannot admit that. And that is a serious piece of internal cognitive dissonance that he needs to deal with.
I said, in the grander scheme of things, who cares if I lose a part in a movie because I hate the orange atrocity? I do, and I want people to know that.
And of course, Gavin Newsom in the top right doesn't believe any of this because he's a politician. He knows how the sausage is made. He's just enjoying it. Mark Hamill, meanwhile, in the bottom right says, who cares if it kills my career? Who cares? Well, I think people care if Luke Skywalker is played by someone that they don't want to invite into their mind. I think it matters if your actions participating in what appears now to have been a cover-up of a very serious scandal at the White House, I think it matters that if you've been participatory in that people no longer care about Star Wars. This thing that you were a part of that was special, it's almost like you joined the other side, and instead of playing Luke, you should have been playing Darth. And perhaps the best role you ever had, Mark, was the Joker, because it may have been the closest to home. Folks, that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll have another one on the way. A lot of people, they click on our channel and they think, oh man, it's going to be rage bait. It's going to be awful, terrible, mean. Ooh, this guy, he just hates everything. They get in here and actually we have intellectual discourse and we try to lift each other up. We try to improve, right? We don't mind if Mark has his political opinions, but we don't like deception. And we think that having political opinions that escape the bounds of healthiness and get into that kind of territory, well, that's an unworthy cause to kill your career, and it certainly is an unworthy cause to kill a franchise. Those are the kinds of deep conversations that we have here on this channel. And by doing so, perhaps we can be introspective to improve our own lives. Folks, you can help us send this out to even more people by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it and stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And if you're not yet a subscriber to the Patreon, it's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. We'd love to have you there where we go even deeper every day. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Huh. Hey, Floral. I just wanted to let you know I have a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
Although, I don't want to say it. It might be like a wish. If I speak it, I'll break it.
Usually a resolution is spoken out loud so you can be held accountable to it. Like, my resolution is to go to thatparkplace.com and be ready to see its new facelift, and to make sure I'm always subscribed to guys like Jonas and Pro, Culture Casino, Lorena Creole, John Trent, all of them.
Well, I actually got Slade Wilson to also make a resolution.
What's that?
I'd get in too much trouble if I repeated it. He took it way further than I feel comfortable repeating.
Well, that's probably a good call. But, what's yours?
It's not to say anything mean about Jonas.
How do you plan to do that? You're an idiot.